My stepsister used my infertility against me by faking cancer and convincing my husband to have her baby as her last wish. When I refused, he started secretly dating her behind my back. I, 32 female, have a complicated history with my stepsister Nicole, 34 female, that I need to explain for context. My dad married her mom when I was 12 and Nicole was 14. The early years were actually pretty good. We shared clothes, hung out with the same friends, and genuinely enjoyed being sisters. Nicole's dad had abandoned them when she was young, so I think she was happy to finally have a complete family. Things started changing when we hit college. Nicole developed this pattern of trying to compete with me in everything. If I joined a club, she had to join it too. If I made new friends, she would try to become closer to them than I was. At first, I thought maybe she was just looking up to me, but it became clear that she was actively trying to overshadow me in every aspect of life. The biggest issues started with dating. Every time I would start seeing someone, Nicole would suddenly show interest in them. She successfully stole 2 of my boyfriends in college by spreading rumors about me cheating or telling them personal things I had confided in her. It got so bad that I stopped telling her anything about my personal life. I met Jack, 33 male, now my husband, at a mutual friend's party 7 years ago. I was immediately drawn to him but kept it quiet around Nicole. She found out eventually and tried her usual tactics. She told Jack I was still hung up on my ex and was using him as a rebound. She even showed him edited screenshots of conversations to make it look like I was trash-talking him to my friends. Thankfully, Jack saw through her manipulation. He had actually saved our real text conversations and could prove she had edited the screenshots. This was the final straw for me. I cut all contact with Nicole despite my dad and stepmom begging me to forgive her. They always made excuses for her behavior, saying she had abandonment issues from her dad leaving and needed therapy, not rejection. But I was done being her emotional punching bag. Jack and I got married 4 years ago. We wanted to start trying for a baby right away because I had irregular periods and suspected there might be fertility issues. After a year of trying with no success, we saw a specialist who confirmed my fears. I had severe endometriosis that made natural conception nearly impossible. We looked into IVF but the doctor said my chances were very low due to poor egg quality. This devastated us, especially me. Jack was supportive through everything and said we could look into adoption when we were ready. We were slowly coming to terms with our situation when Nicole showed up at our door last month. I hadn't seen or spoken to her in 6 years. She looked thin and pale, and before I could even react to seeing her, she started crying. She told me she had been diagnosed with terminal cancer and only had months to live. Despite everything she had done, seeing her like that broke my heart. I let her in and called Jack from his home office. Nicole spent an hour apologizing for her past behavior. She explained that she had been jealous because she felt her mom paid more attention to me than her after the marriage. She said she felt like I was replacing her in her own family. She admitted to deliberately trying to ruin my relationships because she wanted me to feel as abandoned as she did when her dad left. I was touched by her honesty and felt maybe this was a chance to heal our relationship before it was too late. But then she told us the real reason for her visit. She said she had been following my life through social media and knew about my fertility struggles. She said she had a last wish, she wanted to help us have a baby. Not by suggesting adoption or recommending doctors, but by actually having Jack's baby and giving it to us to raise. I thought she was joking at first, but she had clearly thought this through. She had researched doctors who would help with the process. She had looked into legal agreements for transferring parental rights. She even had a timeline planned out, saying she wanted to get pregnant quickly so she could deliver the baby before her condition worsened. Her explanation was that this was her way of making amends. She said she had spent years trying to take things away from me, so now she wanted to give me the one thing I wanted most, a chance to be a mother. Since she was dying anyway, she thought this was perfect. The baby would have me as their mother and would never have to deal with the complexity of having their biological mother in the picture. I was stunned into silence. This was beyond inappropriate. Even if we ignored our complicated history, the idea of my husband fathering a child with my stepsister was insane. I tried to let her down gently, saying while I appreciated the thought behind her offer, this wasn't something I could ever be comfortable with. What shocked me more than Nicole's suggestion was Jack's reaction. He didn't immediately back me up like I expected. He just sat there quietly throughout the conversation. Nicole must have sensed his hesitation because she told us to take time to think about it. She left her contact information and said this was her dying wish, so she hoped we would reconsider. That night, I tried talking to Jack about how inappropriate Nicole's request was. To my complete shock, he said maybe we should consider it. He pointed out that this could be our only chance to have a biological child that was connected to him. When I got upset, he accused me of letting my past issues with Nicole cloud my judgment. He said if I truly forgave her, I should be willing to accept this generous offer. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could he not see how messed up this was? This was the same woman who had tried to sabotage our relationship, who had spent years trying to hurt me, now wanting to have my husband's baby. Even if she was dying and genuinely trying to make amends, this was not an appropriate way to do it. I've been staying with my best friend for the past week because I can't even look at Jack right now. He keeps calling and texting, saying I'm being unreasonable and letting my pride get in the way of having the family we always wanted. My parents think Nicole is manipulating us again, and I'm starting to agree. But a small part of me feels guilty. Am I letting our past issues stop us from having a baby? Should I reconsider for Jack's sake? I'll help rewrite Update 1 with more detail while maintaining the same tone and style. Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments. Many of you said I wasn't overreacting and that Jack's behavior was concerning. Things have gotten much worse since my last post, and I need to share what happened. After a week of constant calls and messages from Jack, I agreed to meet him at our house to talk things through. I thought giving him some space to think would help him realize how absurd this whole situation was. I couldn't have been more wrong. When I arrived at our house last weekend, Jack had transformed our dining table into what looked like a lawyer's office. He had printed out pages of surrogacy information, legal documents about parental rights, and even brochures from fertility clinics. He had sticky notes all over the papers and had highlighted important sections. I stood there staring at everything, feeling like I had walked into some bizarre alternate reality. Jack proudly told me he had already consulted a family law attorney about the process. Without my knowledge or consent, he had been researching how we could legally arrange for Nicole to carry his baby and transfer her parental rights to us. He said he wanted to show me he was serious about considering Nicole's offer and that he had found ways to make it work legally. I tried one more time to explain why this made me uncomfortable. I told him it wasn't just about the past drama with Nicole. Having my stepsister carry my husband's baby felt wrong on so many levels. Before I could finish, Jack cut me off mid-sentence. His whole demeanor changed, and he started accusing me of being stuck in the past. He said Nicole was dying and trying to do something selfless, but I was too vindictive to see it. Then came the worst part. Jack admitted he had already met with Nicole twice in the past week to discuss the arrangements. They had visited a fertility clinic together to ask about the process and timeline. They had even discussed potential donors for eggs since Nicole wasn't sure if chemo would affect her fertility. All of this was happening behind my back while I was staying at my friend's house. When I expressed my hurt and anger about these secret meetings, Jack turned it around on me. He accused me of being jealous and insecure. He said my reaction proved I wasn't over my issues with Nicole and suggested I might need therapy to deal with my irrational feelings. This from the man who once supported me in cutting contact with Nicole because of her manipulative behavior. The argument kept escalating. Jack said I was using my history with Nicole as an excuse because I couldn't handle another woman carrying his child. He knew how painful my fertility issues had been for me, how much I had cried over not being able to give him a baby. Using that against me in this argument felt like a betrayal of everything we had been through together. But he wasn't done. Jack then suggested that maybe I never really wanted children if I was willing to pass up this perfect opportunity. He said a real mother would do anything to have a baby, and my refusal showed I was putting my ego above our family's happiness. That was the moment I realized this wasn't the man I married. I told him he had betrayed my trust by sneaking around with Nicole. I said if having a baby with her was so important to him, he could do it without me in the picture. I took off my wedding ring, placed it on top of all his precious legal documents, and walked out. The look of shock on his face told me he hadn't expected me to actually leave. I've been staying at my parents' house since then. Jack has been calling and texting constantly, switching between apologizing and telling me I'm overreacting. My stepmom called yesterday to tell me Nicole has been visiting our house regularly to discuss arrangements. She works nearby and has seen Nicole's car parked outside several times. She said something feels off about the whole situation, but she can't pinpoint what. My dad suggested hiring a private investigator to look into Nicole's condition because her behavior seems suspicious. He said terminal patients don't typically focus on getting pregnant and making complex future arrangements. But at this point, I don't even care if she's lying about being sick. Jack's betrayal hurt worse than anything Nicole could do to me. I've contacted a divorce lawyer and will be filing papers next week. Some of you asked in the comments if Jack and Nicole had a history before. I never considered this possibility, but now I'm wondering. The way he's suddenly so invested in having a baby with her specifically, when we could explore other surrogacy options with someone we're not related to, makes me deeply uncomfortable. Why does it have to be Nicole? What makes her perfect for this? Several people messaged me saying I should try to work things out with Jack through counseling. But how can I trust someone who went behind my back to make plans with my stepsister? How can I stay married to a man who would dismiss my feelings so completely and try to guilt me about my fertility issues? I feel like I'm living in some weird nightmare, but at least I know I'm not crazy for feeling this way. Thank you all for helping me see that I deserve better than this. I'll update again when there are more developments. Update 2. I never expected to be making this update, but things have taken an even darker turn. 2 weeks ago, I received a call from my stepmom that completely changed everything. She had been suspicious about Nicole's behavior and decided to do some investigating on her own. She went to the hospital where Nicole claimed to be receiving treatment. She told the receptionist she was there to confirm an appointment for her daughter. To her shock, they had no record of Nicole ever being a patient there. My stepmom checked with 2 other major hospitals in our area, same result. No record of Nicole anywhere. This prompted my stepmom to dig deeper. She contacted some family friends who work in healthcare and discovered Nicole had never been diagnosed with cancer or any terminal illness. The whole thing was a carefully orchestrated lie to manipulate Jack and me. When confronted with this information, Nicole broke down and admitted everything to my stepmom. She had been following my social media posts and saw my comments about fertility struggles. She decided to use this information to get close to Jack. The terminal illness story was her way of ensuring we wouldn't question her motives too much. After all, who would doubt a dying woman's last wish? I was furious but not surprised. This was exactly the kind of elaborate manipulation Nicole had pulled in the past. I immediately called Jack to tell him everything. His reaction left me speechless. Instead of being angry at being manipulated, he actually defended her. He said even if she lied about being sick, her offer to help us have a baby was still genuine and we shouldn't dismiss it. Something about his response felt off. He wasn't showing any shock or anger about being lied to. That's when I started pressing him harder. After some back and forth, he finally admitted the truth. He and Nicole had been seeing each other romantically for the past 3 weeks. All those meetings to discuss arrangements were actually dates. He tried to explain that it just happened naturally while they were planning everything. He claimed he never meant for it to go this way, but they connected over their shared desire to have a baby. When I asked if they had been physically intimate, his silence was all the answer I needed. I forwarded all the evidence of Nicole's deception to my lawyer. This includes text messages where she admitted to lying, statements from the hospitals confirming she was never a patient, and screenshots of conversations between her and Jack that my stepmom found on her phone. Jack finally stopped trying to contact me after I threatened legal action for harassment. But Nicole, true to form, couldn't resist twisting the knife one last time. She texted me saying she did me a favor by exposing what kind of man Jack really was. According to her, she had always known he would choose her if given the chance. She said their connection was undeniable from the first time they met, and now they were finally free to be together. My parents are furious. Even my stepmom, who spent years defending Nicole and making excuses for her behavior, says she's completely done with her. They're helping me move my things out of the house while Jack is at work. I'm staying with my best friend until I can find my own place. Looking back, I feel foolish for not seeing through their act sooner. The signs were all there: the secret meetings, Jack's sudden intense interest in Nicole's generous offer, his defensive behavior when I questioned anything. Part of me is grateful this happened before we actually went through with having a baby. At least now I know who they really are. My lawyer says their deception and affair will work in my favor during divorce proceedings. I don't even care about getting more in the settlement, I just want this whole nightmare to be over as quickly as possible. Update 3. The divorce was finally finalized last week, and I wanted to give one last update to close this chapter of my life. These past 6 months have been a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. Initially, Jack tried to contest the divorce. His lawyer claimed I was at fault for abandoning the marriage by moving out first. They tried to paint me as an unreasonable wife who left her husband over a simple misunderstanding. My lawyer presented all the evidence: Nicole's admission of faking her illness, their affair during our marriage, and text messages showing they had planned this manipulation together. Faced with this evidence, Jack finally agreed to my terms just to get it over with. The truth about Nicole's lies spread quickly through our family and friend circle. Most people were disgusted by what she and Jack did. Even Jack's parents, who had always treated me like a daughter, stopped speaking to him. His mother called me crying, apologizing for her son's behavior and saying she had raised him better than this. Several of our mutual friends chose to cut contact with both of them after learning the full story. My stepmom finally accepted that she couldn't excuse Nicole's behavior anymore. She had spent years trying to help Nicole, getting her into therapy, defending her actions as results of childhood trauma. But this elaborate scheme to steal my husband was too much even for her. She told Nicole not to contact any family members again. 2 months ago, I heard through mutual friends that Jack and Nicole moved in together. They've been telling people their version of events, claiming they reconnected when she came to him for emotional support and realized they were meant to be together. They conveniently leave out the part about her faking terminal cancer or them sneaking around behind my back. I've blocked both of them on everything and told our mutual friends I don't want any updates about their lives. Some people suggested I should expose Nicole's lies publicly to warn others about her manipulation. But I decided it's not worth my energy or mental peace. Living well is the best revenge. On a positive note, I've started seeing someone new recently. He's completely different from Jack, honest, respectful, and understanding about my trust issues after what happened. My fertility specialist also suggested some new treatment options we could explore in the future if I decide I want to try for a baby again. But for now, I'm focusing on healing and rebuilding my life. Looking back, I'm grateful I trusted my instincts about Nicole's bizarre request instead of letting Jack gaslight me into accepting it. Sometimes losing a marriage is better than losing your self-respect. The whole experience taught me that it's better to be alone than to be with someone who would betray you so completely. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this crazy situation. Your comments helped me stay strong when I was doubting myself. For anyone going through something similar, trust your gut feelings. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I'm finally ready to close this chapter of my life and move forward. I have no interest in keeping tabs on Jack and Nicole or seeking revenge. The best thing I can do is focus on my own happiness and leave them to live with their choices.